Hi there, this is Jeanette Comerford for Whimsy Stamps, and my video today features brand new June release items from Whimsy. I am using the clear stamp sets Fun in the Sun and Snappy Birthday, as well as the new pattern paper packs that they've released. They released two. I am using the Summer Breeze paper pack, and they also released coordinating enamel dots, so you can see those on my cards as well. And I'll be sharing with you how I colored these images using a Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. So the first thing I did is I laid them all out on my Misty tool, and I am stamping them with archival black ink, jet black ink, on some Canson watercolor paper. And the reason I'm using the Misty is just so that I can get a really nice, clean, crisp stamp, and when I use the Misty I can stamp over and over again and it works perfectly. So now I'm going to start coloring. I stamped more images that I'm going to end up using, but I kept the other ones aside for another project. So I'm using that darker yellow and I'm just sort of tracing the outline, and then I am blending it with this lighter yellow marker. And then I'm using a third sort of even lighter marker. And then I'm using a tank brush, a water tank brush, to sort of blend it all together. I'm going to move on to the party hat. And you'll see in general that I am using two shades of color and then blending it all out with the water brush. I also have a paper towel over on the side, and I use that to dab off any excess water from my brush or to clean my brush off. I decided to use this water tank brush for this project because I find it's a lot quicker to use the tank brush rather than a regular paintbrush. The water is already in the brush, it's in that sort of tank area, and you just need to squeeze the bottom portion to release the water, to clean off your brush or just to do a little bit of watercoloring. And the tip, the bristle tip, is quite fine, so you're able to get into little nooks and crannies the way you would with a regular paintbrush. So now I'm moving on to this cute little crab, using some fun shades of red and orange to color it. One thing I learned from doing this project is that I had started to color an image that was on the right side of my paper, and then I moved over and started coloring the crab, which is on the left. And what happened was, because the watercolor was not completely dry, I ended up transferring some of that yellow ink onto my hand, and then I sort of transferred it onto my paper. You can see on that shell there's some, and I sort of smudged it around the little starfish. So that was sort of a lesson learned for me, that start at the upper left, move over to the right, and that way you're not going to transfer any ink where you don't want it. It was pretty easy. You'll see in a little later on I was able to clean that up, and I'll share how I did that a little later on. So moving on to the eyes, just put a little bit of light blue with the markers, and these markers are so much fun to use. It took me a little bit of time to actually decide to purchase them, and then even to use them I was a little wary, but they are so much fun. There is a great level of detail you can get because the brushes are very fine. The colors blend together so well. And here you can see this is how I'm removing that yellow ink. I'm just coloring over the yellow ink with my clean paintbrush and then just dabbing it with my paper towel. And I was able to get rid of most of that yellow color. So I did color the little oyster in the shell and that other shell, but I didn't end up using them in this project, so I didn't keep the footage, just so that I can keep this video, you know, on the shorter side. Sometimes I think my videos get a little long, but then I, you know, get feedback from people where they like to see every step that I do to create my cards. So some videos are longer, some videos are shorter. Working on the sandcastle here, I was able to find a few markers that created a pretty sand color. Just darkening the little doors and windows there. So this is a fun change from the Copic markers. Don't be afraid to use these. You can purchase just, you know, just a few colors. I've listed all the numbers below so you can kind of get an idea of what sort of combos work together to get a little bit of shading. I did start off buying a sort of pack. I can't remember how many I bought in the pack. Perhaps it was 24. And what I did was I just started buying individual markers to create different color combos. Coloring up this fun sun. It is super cute. I just colored the whole middle with the lighter marker, and then I took that darker marker to sort of give some definition and contrast, just went around those letters. Again, it was super fast to do because the marker tips are so fine. So these images are from 2 clear stamp sets that are being released in June by Whimsy, and they work so well together. I think they lend themselves to so many different projects. You can mix and match the different images from the 2 sets together. They are so cute. I love that the images have little faces on them. So cute. You can see here again I sort of got ink outside the lines, and I was able to fix that just with the water and the paper towel. So we're almost finished. I'm working on the final image that I am going to be using. Wasn't really happy with the coloring on my umbrella, so you'll see that I'm going over it quite a bit, and basically I was trying to lift up some of the ink from the middle so that I could make the middle of the umbrella a little paler so that there was more contrast. And that's the great thing with watercolor. It's really easy to fix mistakes or to sort of take some color away. It's not as easy to do that if you're using Copic markers. Just going to color the sand portion on some of these images. I am going to be cutting them all out, but I did want to add some of the color to the sand. I am using a waterproof black marker just to go over the eyes so that they really pop, they really show up. And then I'm using a white gel pen to add some highlights to the eyes. So here you can see I've made my frame cards, and I will share a link at the top here to show you how I created those frames. And I sort of cut them all out and then I placed them on the cards. You see that I made 3, but I ended up only using 2 of the cards. I wasn't sure how everything was going to fit together. And now I'm just gluing everything down. Here I decided to add a sentiment, so I was able to place it exactly where I wanted by using the MISTI tool. I find this tool is the absolute best for stamping sentiments, where before I used to always stamp them crooked or they weren't exactly where I wanted. Now I can place them perfectly the first time. I stamped it a few times to get a nice clear impression. I did color them up with some Prismacolor pencils on the inside, and now I'm just using some glue dots on the images so that I can adhere them down. I love that I can put them so that they're partially inside the frame and partially outside the frame. I think that's a really cool look. And then I have these gorgeous enamel dots that match the pattern paper, and I am just going to scatter them over the card. I like to do the dots sort of in groups of 3 little triangles. I usually use one larger shape and then 2 smaller ones, different colors, different sizes. I sort of like how that looks together. And I'm just using this craft knife to pick them up and place them carefully. And my cards are now done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. A full list of supplies and links can be found below this video on YouTube or on my blog.